What's up, guys? James from Bolt Bros here. Just kind of giving my last thoughts about the Texans game from last weekend. The beautiful thing about that game is that statistically, we've actually did really, really well out of it. And obviously, the Texans are a good team, not a great team by any means out there. But the one thing that I want to say about that game is that we did really well, as in our right tackle and left tackle. Obviously, Jamari Salyer did fantastic for his first start. Now, reason why I think he did well is one thing: Texans don't really have that strong of a pass rush as a team. Jerry Hughes is really their guy, which basically they stuffed him, didn't give up one sack in that entire game. So he did a great job on that. And then on the right side, too, Trey Pipkins scored very well. I think he actually even got one of the highest rankings on the right tackles in the league. I think it was top 5 for him. So fantastic to see that with our O-line. Jamari coming in and playing a fantastic game. I think his PFF rating was one of the tops in the league, which was phenomenal to see. I think he actually scored the highest as a left tackle in the league. So pretty incredible to see that. Now on defensive side of things, obviously Khalil Mack did his thing. He got one sack, clear run. Nobody blocked him for some reason on the fourth down attempt. And they found a way to be able to sack the quarterback right then and there. Oregon Fox did his thing. Derwin James looked phenomenal out there. He's very sure as a tackler and very effective all around. The one thing I really want to point out too is Nas Adderley. Yeah, he got a pick this game, but there's a lot of picking on him right now. And that's the one thing that's been a worry for me for a long time with him, is that he's kind of getting beat a little bit in the backfield. And we saw a couple plays to where J.C. Jackson was a step behind, and then Nas was basically not in the right position. So there is a little bit of an issue to where there's picking on J.C. Jackson and picking on Nas right now. As an overall right now, Nas is at a 52.5 on PFF. That is not that good. So as a contract year-based player, you want to play your best right now because you want to get paid. And so I think there is something that we need to kind of work on a little bit there. Outside of that, our defense needs to be a little bit more locked down and tighten up our games a little bit too. We shouldn't have had this game kind of run this way to where we're 27-7 at halftime. And then basically we found a way to be able to try to make it tight to basically be a 3-point game at that point. So we don't need that. We do not need these heart attack games. We do not like those type of games. We want to be able to see a nice, tight, sure win from the get-go. I mean, I think that game, we could have put that game to bed basically by halftime or by the middle of the third. And once again, and going back to our offense too, our offense got stagnant again in the second half. I mean, we basically only had about 50-something yards with about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter on our offense. That is unacceptable. I mean, that is losing football, in my opinion. We're having this constant pattern of having an issue of trying to make a good offense in the second half. That's a problem, and we need to find a way to fix that. It's beautiful to be able to see Austin Eckler get his 3 touchdowns. Great to see that happening. There was a better run game, but mind you, once again, we did play against the Texans. The Texans aren't that good of a team. We found a way to do it. This upcoming week, against the Browns, it's going to be a different beast all around. So, I think bottom line, it wasn't the most prettiest to win. I was kind of ticked off about that win because I felt like we could have had that one, put to bed very, very early in that game, but we let them crawl back. So we can't do that. We need to find the second half offense and defense to be able to really lock things down. So once again, those are just kind of my final thoughts for the Texans Chargers game. Looking forward to the next game and to be able to chat about the Browns Chargers game this upcoming weekend.
Bull Bros! Hey, I want to do a video recapping my final thoughts on the Chargers-Texans game this week, and just giving you kind of an idea of where I think the Chargers sit and where they're going. Go through some pros and cons. I think there's some pretty cool articles I just want to highlight really quickly. So let's get into it. So I've really enjoyed reading a lot of Eric Smith's writing. I know he's been on Haley Elwood's and Chris Hayre's podcast a few times, and I really like what how he kind of looks at the team and kind of where it's at and where it's sitting, where it's progressing. I think there's a lot of pros and cons we can take away from this. And I've always said this, it takes about 4 weeks for a team to really understand their identity. And the Chargers are really in that situation where I think they're finally getting there. And some of these early injuries have really hurt our ability to really gel as a team. I mean, a good example, look at the Bills. They look great out of the gate. First 2 games, they looked absolutely unstoppable, and they lost their 3rd game. So, in the NFL, it's very difficult to get a win, especially a road win. So there's a lot to be said about, teams, coming together. And the nice thing is, we could take away from a lot of really good things from this game specifically. One of the things that we did well is we did execute late. Now, you could argue we were really bad in the 3rd quarter, and we really were. We were not great. We did not do well. I think we had a couple of 3-and-outs. And we did slow pretty bad in the 3rd quarter, right? And again, 27-24 lead, right? I was like, come on, guys, like, we should have been blowing this team away entire second half, and we just didn't. And so that's very frustrating. But that 4th and 2 call, probably the best call that Joe Lombardi has done all season by far. He actually did a great job of making that call perfect. And, we obviously got the first down, essentially ran the same play again and scored a touchdown, which is excellent. But again, what I really like about that, it wasn't a predictable play. Right. And I like the idea of rolling Herbert out and playing more on the edge. I feel like we've done a lot more up the middle, a little too much. We're not doing a lot on the edge. The thing that's nice about running it on the edge is that most of the time cornerbacks take those plays. And I understand the argument of, if you execute up the middle perfectly, you usually get more yards. I understand that concept, but when you start banging on some of the other cornerbacks, it makes it more difficult for them to play the pass as well too. So, look, I like the argument of being more on the edge a little more than up the middle, or at least being a little bit less predictable of running it up the middle all the time, because that's what we're doing. We're not doing jet sweeps. We're not doing anything like that. And I understand we're probably setting those up. If you notice the motion in the backfield, you're starting to see eventually what will happen. They'll hike it quicker, hand it off to Bandy or DeAndre Carter or whoever. Those plays need to start happening. And we're just not doing it. And I think that's partially what he's setting us up for down the season. But it's like, come on, man, let's start making these plays happen. It just, again, my frustration with Lombardi, knows no ends. Now, having said that, we did find some explosive plays. We put up 419 yards, which is great. I think we rushed for almost 100 yards, which we're still worse in the league in running the ball right now. But again, it's a good thing that we are starting to see explosive plays. Justin Herbert's always going to get his yardage. He always is. Fantasy football wise, he's always going to get you 300 yards. Usually a couple touchdowns, hopefully not any picks, but he does a great job of getting those explosive plays. So it's been really interesting seeing how that's played out. Now, again, Williams had the longest play of the game, 50-yard catch. Palmer looked good. Bandy looked great. I'm so excited to see Bandy there, and he did a great job finding an open spot in the zone and sitting. I think it's one thing Keenan Allen I've discussed does a really good job at. So it's really nice to see Bandy step into that position. Very curious to see what happens when Keenan Allen comes back, what they do with Bandy. I do hope that they keep him up and use him as another option moving forward. And the Bolts game, we did start rushing the ball fairly well, which is good. And it was also good with a rookie in there playing left tackle. I think he did a really good job. Obviously, Jamari Sawyer had an amazing game. Got a game ball from Brandon Staley. So it's pretty good to see that. Now, we rushed for 81 total yards. And again, there's arguments both ways. If you watch our post-game show, I'm a little frustrated that, Sony Michel's getting so many carries. I think there's some discussions my brother James talked about that, the running back room was not really happy that we went out and signed Sony Michel. And I can understand why, right? I think there was a good cohesiveness in the locker room without him. So I think this might be part of the reason why we're having a hard time going in the run game right now, signing Sony Michel. But I can understand why from a manager, and also a Tom Telesco general manager point of view, it's nice having an extra back there that you can use to get some carries and give Eckler a little bit of a breather. But the argument is also Eckler's our best running back. Let's ride the guy that's getting us where we need to be. And in my mind, yes, he's a running back, but he's also really more of a wide receiver. That's really how I've always viewed him. And I know James even brought up a couple times, why don't we put Eckler in the slot a little more frequently? That makes more sense to me. Put him next to Bandy or have Bandy in the backfield with Eckler. And, they both just run out of the backfield, right? And that's impossible to cover. You just cannot cover that. And anyways, I could talk about that all day. There's so many ideas rattling around in my head on what we could do differently. But again, Eckler had a great day. Read this article. It's absolutely fantastic. But again, I think that's a really good thing. And this locker room speech right here was amazing by Coach Staley. I mean, look, Eckler got a game ball. So did Jamari. It's just awesome seeing the team go well. And look, winning makes everyone happy. And that's where we're at. Now, I will say this too. Yes, we gave up quite a bit of yards running, and it was really just the main run that he scored. I think it was a 75-yard run that Pierce got. Other than that, one run, we did really well. Fox looked good. Sebastian Joseph Day looked good. We are looking really – and Tillery even got a sack, which blew me away. And I also do believe that Khalil Mack got a sack. So we got 4 sacks total. So it's nice to see us get plenty of pressure in the middle, which is really what we need to see, right? Because again, it's going to be easier for us to get picks. And you saw that we got 2 picks in this game. And, it took a lot. And again, it was 10 quarterback hits. That's huge, guys. During a football game, that really does get in people's minds, and it makes it very difficult for them to succeed and do their job. So it's good to see pressure coming up the middle. And again, if you can get pressure up the middle, guys, it's even better for people like Khalil Mack. And the one person that I was a little bit disappointed with here was Chris Rumph. Rumph did not do great. I don't even think he got a sack or a tackle or anything. So I would like to see his production get up there, but he really did not have a great game, which is a little bit frustrating to me. And again, this is the number 5 takeaway, but it's also my frustration, right? Is we put up 27 points in the first half, and then we gave up 24 points. Guys, it's almost like we just became complacent, right? That is really frustrating. And again, you can argue all day. Yeah, it's not easy to win on the road. Yes, I get that. And again, you could also say, look, at that point, they were moving away from the running game a little bit, right? They did get that run up the middle, and Pierce got 75 yards, but that really sparked their offense 100%. And then Cooks got a touchdown. But again, we got to put people to sleep, right? I don't know. To some degree, I kind of felt like we did very conservative play calling the second half after we had 27 points, and we let him back in. And guys, that should not happen. And I don't know, these 17 unanswered points was just really frustrating to me. I just kept thinking, what is going on here? And I guess if there is a positive, I just want to highlight Derwin James's comment here. We haven't played our best football. I 100% agree with that. Before I go to the next article, I think it's a really good point, right? Is that we have not really gelled as a team offensively or defensively yet. And I think that's probably the best way of saying my frustrations with this team so far is that, yes, we are good, but we can be so much better. So much better. I want to see a blowout game. I want to see what I'm really hoping we do. We go to the Browns and we beat them by, 14 points, and it's not even a close game. Or even 17 points, 2 touchdowns and a field goal. And it's just not even close. We just put them to sleep early, and they get a bunch of junk yards at the end, right? I want to see that. I want to see us show up and just completely dominate a team, because we haven't really done that this season, which is a bit frustrating. So Derwin, I think he said it perfectly. We have not played our best football yet, and I agree with that. I think there's so many better things that we can be doing. I still think the line is gelling. I still think the safety positions are gelling. It's good to see Nas Adderley get a pick, Callahan get a pick. It's interesting, though. I will say this defensively, Mike Davis wasn't out there a whole lot, and that was largely because J.C. Jackson was there. I still think J.C. Jackson still needs to get back to good form. I think he did much better this game, but he'll definitely be tested a lot more this next week. So be interesting to see how he plays moving forward. So the next one, and again, this is kind of reiterating also what we discussed earlier, talking a little bit about a few things. Really, Austin Eckler really, really heated up. I thought this was great. I understand the concept of saving him for the rest of the season, but at the end of the day, I just really feel like he's got to get going, and he's such a spark plug for the team, right? And so it's really nice to see him do well, getting the running game going. And Jamari Sawyer, cannot say enough about him. he did a fantastic job. I think his PFF rating was over 80, which is amazing, right, for a rookie. So again, as often as we want to criticize our coaching staff, having a rookie like Jamari Salyer step in and perform the way he did, guys, that's not just done by him alone. Yes, he deserved a game ball for playing a great game on his own, but the coaching staff did a great job of getting him prepared to play this game. And so you have to give him some credit for that. Now, also, Trey Pipkins had a really good game, too. And up to this point, he was kind of struggling a little bit on the right side. So it was good to see Trey Pipkins do well. Now, again, what did I say? When did the wheels start falling off the track for the Chargers this season, right? And it was when Corey Linsley went out of the game. Then Trey Pipkins started having all these problems, right? So it was good to see Corey Linsley come back in. We want our commander in general on that offensive line to do well. And he really made a big deal of making that line more cohesive. So I'm just hoping that Corey Linsley can stay healthy the rest of the season. I really just hope he can, because if we can have this line moving forward, life is good. Now, again, I will say this. Jamari's going to be tested this next week. Don't know for sure if all their edge rushers are going to be out there. But, we'll see, right? So they're a much better team. I'm kind of hoping Myles Garrett isn't out there. And, but we'll see. I mean, he's pretty banged up from his car injury, so it'll be really interesting to see if he actually plays. So very good to see him do well. Now, again, speaking of the defensive line, we did get the job done without Joey. Now, again, the concern I have is Rump was in with him most of the time, did not do well. So was also Kyle Van Noy. He really did not pressure the quarterback as well as Joey Bosa, of course. Having said that, they're going to double team Khalil Mack, and they pretty much did for most of the game. But that did open up the interior, and I think that's why we got a lot more pressures from folks like Morgan Fox, Jerry Tillery, because they were double teaming. And I noticed there was a lot of stunts. I think the sack that Tillery got, Mack and Tillery did an actual stunt, if I recall correctly, and that's actually what got Tillery the actual sack. So a lot of interesting things happening. Again, Joey, it sounds like, I just read an article, he's probably going to be out for 8 to 10 weeks, which is really frustrating. But, we're getting it done without Joey, but they obviously have to change up their defensive line pressures, right? So it's going to be really interesting. So one last thing I did also want to discuss too, Mike Williams had a bounce back game. I did predict that he would have a good game, with also our tight end, Gerald Everett. He had a great game as well too. But the other Mike did really well too. Mike Bandy also played very, very well. I was very excited to see him. And the thing I liked about Bandy is that, again, he did a good job of finding the open spot in the zones, and really replaced that third down type of mentality for Justin Herbert, just finding a soft spot in the zone. Keenan Allen's so good at that. And I really hope we get him back this week, but we'll see. We'll see what happens moving forward. Anyways, so I think the sky's the limit with targets for Justin Herbert, which is great. And speaking of the secondary, Nas Adderley got a pick. I'm really excited to see him do better this year. I think a lot of people are expecting him to have a really good season this year, especially with Derwin James probably moving up into the box a lot more frequently, doing a little more edge rush. So anyways, I'm really excited to see how we do in the secondary moving forward. And again, I really need to see J.C. Jackson do a little bit better. I mean, I think there was a few plays that, he just doesn't look like himself. And I understand that there's some issues going on with him, with his ankle injury and so on and so forth. But look, it's the NFL, man. You got to step up and get better. And so, again, this team, and I really do believe, that Derwin James said it best. This team still has not played its best football. So what do you guys think? Give me some thoughts below, and give me some of your ideas and thoughts on where we sit this week 4. And what are your predictions for the Browns game? And again, we are going to be having a video with another content creator for the Browns. So be on the lookout for that. So as always, guys, I'm Andrew from the Bolt Bros. See you guys in the next one.
Bolt Bros!
What's up, y'all? It's Kyle from the Bolt Bros here. Hey, thank you for watching the video. And you know what? It's it was really good that Andrew and James talked so much about the Texans, and I feel like honestly that's all we really need to talk about with that game anymore. So let's just move forward and talk about the Browns game with the Chargers a little bit. So for me, I feel like that we can actually win this game, but it's going to be a very close game because the truth is that the two losses that the Browns have, one was a difference of 1 point with the Jets, and the other was an end of the game field goal by the Falcons. So the Browns are actually a very good team this year, and they are a lot better than what we had actually thought that they were at the beginning of the season. Now, with that said, we do still have a lot of tough players on our team that are going to make this a very difficult game for the Browns. And I do believe that we are the better team between the two teams. And because this is now the final first 4 weeks of the season, I feel like we are finally getting into our rhythm, into our groove now. So we have a really good chance of actually being able to be the team that we all believe that we will be here on week 5. Um, Now, with that said, there's a few things that I think that the Chargers need to do in order to win this game with the Browns, and that is number one, they need to stop the run. 1000%. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are by far the best running back duo in the NFL right now. Yes, we're just right now. I don't know about down in the future, but they are crushing it. And I think they can easily put 200 yards on us if we are not careful. And I think that our front line on the defense needs to step up a lot in order for that to stop. And so far, I know there's a lot of holes in that armor. So, but number two, in order for us to win this game, we need to actually get our run game up and running as well. Because obviously, Austin Eckler had a total of 100 yards total scrimmage last week. And he actually is tied six with the number of receptions as far as running backs go. But I want to see him get a lot more carries and a lot more yards per carry than just yards per catch, and get that yards after catch in situations like that. We need to actually get that thing going because the more we get the run established, the more opportunities Justin Herbert's going to have to throw a deep ball, or where it's going to keep the defenses guessing whether or not we are going to pass or if we're going to run. All right. And then the third thing that I think that we really need to focus on this week is, of course, penalties. Look, our team has had the worst luck as far as penalties go when it matters, especially in that Chiefs game. Oh my gosh. I swear, I think we had at least 3 more interceptions than what we should have had on paper, but that's just the way the game is. So things happen. Anyways, I mean, I feel like we just need to focus on that discipline, get a little bit more of that established, and let's see what happens. Now, on the Brown side, obviously Myles Garrett has actually had a bit of an injury himself, and so if he's in the game, it's going to cause some trouble for sure. Jamari Sawyer, it seemed like it was riding a bike for him to play the left tackle position. So I'm actually confident that Jamari Sawyer will have a good game against Myles Garrett, even if he's in or if whoever else is taking his place. So. But lastly, like I said, this is going to be a tough game for us. I am not trying to sleep on this at all, and I feel like the players need to also keep that same mentality going. We need to use this momentum that we got from winning against the Texans and push us into the Browns as well, and beyond that. This is where the actual team starts. I believe J.C. Jackson is going to be able to have much better form now, and hopefully, the hope is that Donald Parham's going to be back in, and the hope that Keenan Allen's going to be back in. But we'll have to find out as time goes by. So, anyways, thanks again for watching, guys. As you saw, we are everywhere in the wider world of the social media. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it. Always Bolt Bros podcast. And if you like what you see, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and like and share with your friends, please. All right. And once again, take care. Bolt Bros, let's go.